Alright, I'm back with another market update for the week of March 19th, 2021. We'll be discussing Palantir, Tesla, Lemonade, Square, BYND, and Bitcoin. So before we get started, I want you to know that timestamps and chapters are available in the description if you want to skip around to any point in this video that interests you more than any others. So let's get started with the weekly overview. Pretty much, we had a reversal from what was last week of some strength coming off of relative lows. Now we have a little bit of a give back of that rally with tech stocks down in the mid single digits, but the broader market not reacting too much. So let's get started with Palantir, which did have another rough week, down 9.87% to $24.30, a market cap of 44.28 billion. So let's have a look at the Palantir PLTR 3-month chart. And of course, that first arrow there is pointing to the relative low that we had of $20.18. And then we had the bounce back, of course, but now we are consolidating into the low to mid 20s. We did have a give back from what got up to the 27s, and now we're around $24 a share. So there definitely is a possibility that Palantir could revisit the ultra low 20s if it doesn't find any support in the near term. And that would certainly be a test for the stock if it did get pushed down to the $20 range. I'll tell you, I am not expecting that because I do not think things are going to get any worse for this company. I think more or less we are just waiting for Palantir to get a foothold going forward. So how about news for the company for the week? Palantir did have its CEO Alex Karp do an interview earlier in the week in which he was talking about Wall Street and how he endorses Reddit traders who do research on the stock and believe in the company in the long term, but he does not like the destructive and corrosive short-term focus that is Wall Street itself. He said, you guys can go find another stock if you are looking for short-term results. Palantir is not for you, but we will be here building for the long term, which is great for me to hear as a long-term investor, but did perhaps trigger part of that sell-off as maybe some of the short-term traders or speculators wound down parts of their positions. Again, not too much going on for Palantir this week. Moving on to Tesla now, down 5.3% to 654.87, a market cap of $628.6 billion. Let's look at the Tesla chart. Still a decent bit above the lows in the mid 500s that we got a few weeks ago, and again a little bit of a pop and then consolidation. We'll have to see what happens to the macro environment going forward, but Tesla could retrace below $600 if the macro tensions worsen in the markets. That's definitely a possibility if, again, same thing with Palantir, it does not get a foothold going forward next week. We do have the potential of ARK Invest to release its new price target, which is imminent and could be a catalyst for the stock, whether it is next week or sometime soon. So news for the company, I just saw that they ordered the first 8,000 ton casting machine to build the Cybertruck. Saw that was just a new hot off the press story, so I thought I would just throw that in here for some sort of production news for the Cybertruck. I don't think it is a top priority right now. Model Y and all the other factories, especially the one in Texas, needs to get going before the Cybertruck can do anything, but it is good to see nonetheless that Tesla is ordering and getting the equipment and production set up for when the Cybertruck will be ready to go. And here's this Barron's article. Tesla stock is falling again. There's too much going on. There's political tensions, the rising rates, everything, and Tesla is a pretty good representation of the tech growth market, and it did get hit this week as we already talked about. So I'll be very interested to see where it heads next week. Moving on to Lemonade, down a 6.14% to under $100, the key psychological level, to 99.69 with a market cap of $6.11 billion. Take a look at Lemonade, another stock that has bounced off of lows not too long ago, and it is consolidating once again with the market. We'll see if this stock is able to rebound above $100 not too long from now. I think 100 though is not a bad entry point. I know a lot of people don't like this company, but I would be happy owning more shares around the $100 level. That is currently where my cost basis is. As for Lemonade news, we did have a report that Director Seidman sold 25,000 shares on Tuesday, March 16th at $2.67 million worth of stock. But Daniel Schreiber has said in the past, these are preset, predetermined executions that are completely independent, not insider trading at all, which is generally true and the case and corporate procedure for any sort of insider selling or liquidity. So don't read into this too much, but I did want to bring it up. And moving on to Square stock, down 7.67%, even with Bitcoin strength recently to $224.84, a market cap of $102.2 billion. Same story for Square, another one of these tech stocks that I like, bouncing off of lows as you'll see in the first arrow and just moving sideways. Consolidation, we'll see it'll probably move the same way as the market. I don't know if Square will retrace below $200 as it did in the crash more recently, but I think that would be an absolutely great entrance point if it does. That said, personally, I do think around $220 is a fair price to be buying, and I may actually go shopping next week on Square. Any news? Not really, other than Cash App's giving away $1 million in Bitcoin. Not too big of a deal, but it's good for the perception of Cash App and getting people excited to use the platform. They're also allowing fee-free transfers of Bitcoin in a peer-to-peer fashion on their network. So I thought I would bring that up. Alright, moving on to Beyond Meat stock. I did have a video on that company this week. Not really a tech company, but more in the growth sector, down 3%. It traced below $140 to $139.39 to an $8.77 billion market cap. And there you have it. The stock did have a little bit of a run-up with earnings and the announcement of partnerships with McDonald's and such, but has sold off since then. We did get a little bit of a rebound, again off of those relative lows, but nothing too crazy. I will be looking to add some Beyond to my portfolio, as I have not yet done so, hopefully at a better price if the stock continues to drop. What about the news for Beyond this week? We did have initiation of a buy target with a $190 price target from analyst Mark Connolly, and Oppenheimer did offer some comments on Beyond Meat's Q1 2020 earnings. I do not have those pulled up, and again, that earnings report already happened. It did disappoint some of Wall Street despite the announcements of the partnerships that they had going. So moving on to Bitcoin, a fairly flat week, showing some strength though. At the time I record this, $57,113.44 to a $1.1 trillion market cap. We had the Bitcoin price pop on the tail end of last week, and of course that triggered a little bit of a give back, but the strength has returned and Bitcoin is just around $60,000 per coin. So how about the Bitcoin news this week? We've got some more good institutional comments from Deutsche Bank in particular, saying Bitcoin is just too important to ignore at this point. Obviously, anyone with a brain has been saying that for the last 6 months or so. Nevertheless, good to see some asset managers kind of jump on board with their public commentary. And Bitcoin, as I said, did fall after it hit its record high above $61,000. We'll see if it is able to push higher this weekend and into next week. And lastly, the S&P down just 0.76% to $3,943.34. So some final thoughts on the week. We did see some more volatility, some more red in the markets, stocks hitting some pretty big sell-offs, some big red candles. But that being said, the market discounts continue, and if you are looking to buy stocks, these are more fair prices than they were a few months ago. I'm not telling you or instructing you to make any sort of purchases. That is definitely something to consider. And the macro environment does remain iffy. It remains to be seen if the Fed will be able to buoy the market at all, and how Wall Street will react to any sort of monetary or fiscal policy changes. And then just to wrap everything up, the stimulus checks are in the progress of going out if they have not already. So next week, let's see if there's any sort of reaction to that stimulus. Maybe stocks get a little bit of a bump with the transactions being made to brokerage accounts. It potentially could, maybe to Bitcoin's price or anything like that. We will have to see. So I hope this roundup was helpful. Drop a like if it was. Until next time.